everyone, and welcome to the USASBE Meet the Editor series. My name is Julie Shields, and I'm President and CEO of USASBE. And we'd like to thank our editors and audience today for joining us for this informative deep dive on publishing in the Journal of Small Business and Entrepreneurship. But before we get started, a couple of quick announcements. The call for engagement for USASBE 2022 Pioneer and Persevere has been announced, and submissions are already being accepted. Our annual conference will be held January 5th through the 9th of 2022, and it will be hybrid. The in-person version of the event will be held in beautiful Raleigh, North Carolina, and it will be hosted by our great friends at North Carolina State University and East Carolina University. As I mentioned, submissions are open now and will be open through August 31st of 2021. I also want to make sure that you know that we have launched our very own channel called Bold Entrepreneurship Education Television, or BVision, where we post new curated content every week. Episodes include tips on how to authentically and effectively teach, interviews with entrepreneurs you can use in your classrooms, deep dives on research being published in our flagship journal, Entrepreneurship Education and Pedagogy, research that is being published in our Annals of Entrepreneurship Education, and more. Access to this searchable content is included with your USASBE membership. And if you aren't currently a USASBE member, we invite you to join today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. But this series, Meet the Editors, is a free program of USASBE's as we seek to further entrepreneurship research and its application in entrepreneurship classrooms and ecosystems. We were challenged at USASBE 2021 by Bill Olet of MIT to create millions of entrepreneurs. And this is one way that we can do our part, to share and promote excellent research journal opportunities like this. So today we welcome Dr. Howard Lin. Dr. Lin is the director of the Canada-China Institute for Business Development and professor at Ryerson University. He was former chair of the Academy of International Business, Canada Chapter, and currently serves as the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Small Business and Entrepreneurship. Dr. Lin will be joined by Dr. Amon Simba. Dr. Simba is a senior lecturer in entrepreneurship, innovation, and strategy at Nottingham Business School. In 2016, Dr. Simba was voted the best reviewer at JSBE and subsequently earned himself a promotion to associate editor of the journal. I will now turn the session over to Dr. Lin to speak about JSBE.
Greeting from Toronto. We're excited by this opportunity. I think we want to share some of the information about our journal. Hopefully get questions and we exchange ideas. Hopefully that can help you to publish. Today, we're representing the Journal of Small Business Entrepreneurship. We have a two-person, myself, and I have a colleague, Amon, Simba. So I want to go ahead and start presenting our journal, to talk from the editor's point of view. If you want to publish, of course, we're welcome to publish to this journal. And if you do want to publish with us, what things you want to keep in mind, because as you gone through all this module, I think USASBE did a good job. All this fantastic journal have a different, unique requirement, so you want to pay attention. So let me get started to introduce our journal. My name is Howard Lin. I teach at Ryerson University in Toronto. This is our journal, Journal Small Business Entrepreneurship. So the journal is published on behalf of the Canadian Council for Small Business Entrepreneurship. So I'm not sure how many of you heard us because the U.S. we talk about the publishing industry, the major market is United States, but we're based in Canada. This is the only Canadian-based journal on entrepreneurship and small business. So I think this is why some of you may not have heard about us. Yeah, we have a history, kind of a long history, started in 1983, but at the time, it is not just Canada focused, but it's also practitioner oriented only. So we have this at the time, just publish paper with the practitioner's policy maker in mind. So only until I think up to 1912, so the journal made a transformation to become a research journal. So, for this kind of a transition, you can understand that we kind of lost a lot of the audience, we lost a lot of the authors. So it's really, we call the lost years. For example, in 2014, we didn't have a sufficient submission. So in entire 2015, we don't publish anything because at the time there's confusion about the among the communities or authors, the audience. So we want to say there's a rebirth only in 2015. So yeah, because I want to say this is a short history, we made a tremendous progress. So that's why I'm really proud presenting this journal to you. I want you to consider publish with us. Here's we belong. So what do you see on this page? We indexed on this on this list. So one of the things stand out that you can see we're quite international, right? Scopus, this is based in Europe. This is very kind of a credible indexing. But the other ones, UK, France, Germany, Australia. So you can see we're truly very international. So the progress, and especially if I give you this statistic, you can tell is tremendous progress. Between 2019 to 2020, this is last year, our download increased so much. We got a marked impact factor increase. Our submission more than doubled. But at the same time, our acceptance rate is decreased, almost half. For those, especially, I think the young scholars, quite in a hurry a lot of times. So this is critical. So we talk about decision speed. We talk about from the, our first decision, from your submission to our first decision or final decision is kind of really reduced. We target, we kind of a benchmark against some of the very top journal in the field. So why you publish with us? I didn't mention here, we're the only journal based in Canada on small business entrepreneurship. So if you're in the US, kind of we're neighbor. But if you're international, I mean, you're outside North America, you want to appreciate this, we're truly international. I want to show you something later to give you evidence of that. So, but also I mentioned we're on those really credible indexing, but also with upcoming and we're in a candidacy of emerging CSCI index. So here's something I really get from a very senior editor. Last fall, we have a panel. So this editor from the Academy Management Journal. So one of the questions from the panel, from the audience is that this is a young scholar said, I normally, I started with something called not a top journal. Is there a way we can upgrade, eventually publish in, say, Academy Management Journal? So the editor said, absolutely. And actually, you should grow with, like he used this term, a junior journal. It's not. So I want to say that you want to publish with us to test the industry, especially when you have a novel idea is on a timely topic here. So yeah, how do we say we're very international? This page, I show the download, the popular articles from the last 12 months. You see the topic were listed here. Sweden, Iran, Greek, Germany. Of course, we have a lot of the North American and many emerging market and developing market author and a topic here. So just give you a sense who have been publishing in this journal. You can see. And I want to mention that the U.S. is here is just a submission, but in terms subscription, actually U.S. is count for something like 80% of subscription. So even the author from quite an international authors, but our audience, most of our audience, I think, is really covered not just, we say the international. The majority of our audience is in North America, is in United States. So yeah, so this is how the journal position ourselves. So we're very international, try to be timely, publish a novel idea. When you come down to an international journal, one of the things, so I think this could interest to the audience. You're really located outside North America. So when you present your paper, your study setting tend to be a local context. So one of the things we like this international contact, regional, local context is the opportunity to conceptualize theory. So when we say we want to push the boundary of existing thought, so there's no better way to take advantage of a local, unique context. Yeah, so this is, I think later Dr. Simba will talk about how to publish, what could be the good topic. So I just want to save some time, highlight the importance of this contextualization. Yeah. So, but when you do that, make sure you use this context in the general literature, referring to a theoretical issue. You can't just talk about why the microfinancing in the village, you just talk about that. You want to elaborate how perhaps this village, the unique context, can really expand on the literature of microfinancing, even some of the underlying theory. So that's the contribution will come from. Another thing, I think probably because of my job, the editor-in-chief, I have a not very pleasant job because, I mentioned last year we have a 500 submission. My job is to, serve like a gatekeeper. I desk reject a lot, so I get a lot of angry letters from the audience, from the readers. However, these are the tips I think is very important. This morning, I just reject the paper. I feel so sorry because you can see the effort the author put into the project, but for some fatal flaws, we have to return the paper for the author to rework on it. One of the things I think is kind of a speak to the larger context of this research industry. I came from China. I remember when the Western management research first introduced to China, most of the Chinese young scholars pay attention to the methodology side of the Western scholarship. These days I receive a lot of paper. In the abstract, the author forgot to mention the key issue. They started like this paper using advanced structural equation modeling approach to analyze things like 10,000 questionnaires and forgot the most important things. That's the theme, that's the problem, and eventually you talk about approach and summarize your basic findings in the abstract. So don't miss out the major things in your study, focusing on issue rather than methodology, although methodology is also critical, important. Secondly, just because of this, I want to say knowledge transfer. We talk about the small business and entrepreneurship research. It started evidently from the United States, from Europe, right? Now coming to international side. But so a lot of the topic is kind of I don't want to use this term recycled, but it's just studied by the international scholars. And one of the examples will be the entrepreneurial intention, especially using student sample. So this is I'm not saying we no longer publishing on this topic, but in order to make contribution, you need to have a novel conceptualization with the funding, especially the local context, help push the boundary of existing, the massive literature on this entrepreneurial intention literature. The third thing I want to say is unfit style. We got a paper, basically is a project evaluation. You talk about the, local government small business assistance program, and they just give a detailed historical comprehensive evaluation, but forgot, the only thing that, for example, let's just say somebody talk about the city program for small business assistance or exporting assistance program in China. So the editor not me, some editor will ask, so why we didn't know that in a particular city in the South coastal area in China? Why we need to know that? So only when you say you have implication for other people's, but then you become a generalized, you conceptualize, you theorizing something that become a body of the literature, not just local programming evaluation. So you want to pay attention to the style. Now this is not an entirely style issue, right? Yeah, you want to see via research journal. I think for USASBE, this journal presented in the modules, all research journal. Yeah, you want to pay attention to familiarize yourself with the protocol of those the journals. Okay. Hello. Now let me talk about effort. So what do I mean effort? I just when you prepare the manuscript, I remember reading a commentary from the AMJ, right? It talked about how the top authors rewriting the introduction. I remember the average time they rewrite the introduction is something like 12 times. How many times you rewrite your introduction abstract? So I just have a personal experience, and now I'm revising. I just submit last week a revised paper to a top journal. So the responses to the reviewers I gave is 11 pages, single spaced. It's almost like a short essay, right? So the author, they have this misunderstanding. They say that as long as they get a chance to revise, the acceptance the chance of acceptance is very high. Now that could be a truth in it, right? At least you pass the first around this scrutiny. However, do pay attention. Don't save your energy for another good paper. Try to put your best effort to show, not just to showing your effort. You will be happy when you see the final print in a journal. It really doesn't matter what journal. Okay. And the last thing I'd mention is this, the writing. I came from China, is not born into this English environment. I probably, even today, when I write a paper, I will spend more than, I think, 3 or 4 times a native speaker will write. How do you we got an author says, this writing is hard because I came from Pakistan, right? This is not the normal way we writing paper. What is the best paper? How do you say it's a good writing? Yeah. Now, one of the advice I can give is just to read the right paper, read the good paper. When I was in PhD program, I asked the same question to my advisor. His answer says, here are the 3 papers. Even me, my advisor, even me always refer to when I write paper. I think that's what we write paper in Chinese. I don't know your language, but the good writing only take experience of writing. There's no other ways to improve.
Okay, thank you very much, Howard. I will carry on from what Howard was explaining. And I'll focus more on the areas that you need to pay attention when publishing with JSBE. I will introduce myself. My name is Amon Simba. I'm at Nottingham Business School in the UK. I joined JSBE as an associate editor, I think it was in 2017. So I have been involved in a number of initiatives for JSBE, driving the journal to other parts of the world. And you will notice towards the end, I will focus on the topics that are more relevant and contextualized in different parts of the world, and that we can use, that we are interested in for JSBE. Okay. First things, when I'm looking for publication, or when you are thinking of publishing your papers, there are important things that you need to do. I know you may have heard of these things before, but trust me, I see the same mistakes coming back and back again and again. Crucial things. Do your due diligence. What do I mean by that? Say you want to publish in JSBE. You need to look at the current debate that's happening in the journal. What are the topical issues that are being discussed in the journal? That's what you want to concentrate on and contribute to. Your chances of getting your paper through the desk reject are very high if it's relevant and it fits into the debate that we're having in the journal. I've given an example there. Technological entrepreneurship, artificial intelligence. I'll come back to these topics later on. Women entrepreneurship, informal entrepreneurship. Those are the topical issues that are currently being debated in the journal. And that's what you need to pay attention to and be very careful in terms of how you bring your own ideas onto that debate. One of the other important things that I always ask myself, and I always see missing in the journals that we receive, in the papers that we receive, surely you're trying to publish with us. At least try to cite a paper that was published in our journal. In doing so, you are actually contributing or engaging in the ongoing debate. Okay. The other thing, these might be minor things. Pay attention to the house style. Things such as referencing style, things such as how we structure our papers, the traditional introduction, literature review, methodology, findings, discussion, the traditional structure, very important. You'll be surprised by how many times or the number of papers that we get that flip that structure, and that paper ends up making little sense. Very important, therefore, to pay attention to that. Also, look at the associate editors and the editor-in-chief within that journal. What sort of things do they publish in? Because those are the things of interest. Those people at the top, associate editors and editor-in-chief, they are the ones driving the direction of that particular journal. To give yourself an opportunity, a good chance of publishing, look at those things, pay attention to those things, and then engage in that debate. That's very important. Okay. Now, as I said, I'll come back to the topical issue and all that stuff. I'm going to go into detail in terms of what sort of things do you need to look at and what sort of things do you need to concentrate on and pay attention. You will notice here there is a paper by Shepard and Weckland on the right-hand side of the screen. It's a latest, it's a fresh research, not research as such, but advice, editorial advice on what sort of things you would need in your introduction, literature review, methodology, findings, discussion, and the conclusion. It might sound as though I'm repeating stuff that you know, but as I said at the beginning, we are getting lots and lots of papers that are not arranged in the simple manner that I've just explained. This paper by Shepard tells you which sections, which materials you would include in different sections of your paper. And it's very important. Like what Howard said, even as an experienced researcher that I am, I still look for those things. I still look for structuring. I go back to it time and time again. It doesn't matter I've done it 40, 50 times. I still go back to look at the structure. If I put the right content in each section. In the introduction, on the left-hand side, I'm saying, be clear what exactly has motivated you to write your paper. What exactly do you want to look at and why? Motivation is very important. It sets the scene. That's what the introduction is. It sets the scene. Engage in the gap. What is the knowledge gap? You need to highlight that. Weckland's paper, Dean Shepard and Weckland's paper, talks about entrepreneurship as a new field where we are getting theoretical concepts from other fields, and we are using those concepts to enhance what we mean by entrepreneurship. Very important if you want to make a contribution, borrowing theoretical concepts from other fields to enhance what we mean by entrepreneurship. You will notice at the end, I'll talk about micro-entrepreneurship, informal entrepreneurship, and all those things. The theories, you blending them with things that are coming from developmental economics to try and explain the behaviors or how micro-entrepreneurs are engaging with their social environment. Knowledge gap is very important, and those things have got to be highlighted right in the introduction. You'll be surprised, the next point there, which is point number 3, what are the main questions, or what is main question to be addressed? There's so many times that I've read an introduction, finished reading the introduction, I ask myself, what is the key question that this author is trying to address? Or what's the key question that's going to guide everything that's going to be discussed in this paper? Half the time I don't find the answer. So it's very important to be clear on that. What are the main contributions? 3 levels. You're contributing to the discipline. If it's entrepreneurship discipline, theoretical contribution. Are you extending theory? Are you bringing in new theory? Do not be afraid to bring in new ground, to break new ground. That's what I mean. Do not be afraid to break new ground. That's very crucial. To who is your work relevant to? Those things have got to be clear right at the top. Your audience, who will benefit from what you're going to be talking about. Those things have got to be made clear in the introduction. Literature review, I'll just quickly summarize the literature review. It is a very important section of any paper. You are telling us what is already there, what is already known within that field, and what is missing. That's crucial. I talked about contribution in the introduction. You need to make it explicit in the literature review what is known and what is missing within that literature. Blend in key authorities within that field, dated and current studies. There has to be a very good balance between those. In order to highlight that gap, you need to be critical, analytical, and evaluative. That's very important. Half the time, papers we reject, the literature review is descriptive. It just tells us what so and so has said and what so and so has said, but doesn't actually synthesize and critique those ideas. So that's very important to think about those as you do your literature review. Okay. Methodology, for me, it's very important. That's the first part I go and look at if I'm evaluating a paper. If Howard sends a paper onto my desk for me to handle, methodology is very, very important. What are you trying to do? And what instruments are you actually using? I always say this, I use a very simple analogy. Say, for example, I'm an engineer or I'm a handyman. So I'm a handyman, I fix blocked toilet systems, simple blocked toilet systems. I've got a tool bag and I take my tool bag and I miss the most important instrument to unlock the blocked drainage. I won't be able to do the business. I can use all the other instruments and that will take me longer. I'll be able to do it probably at the end. But within my tool bag, I need to have the right instruments. Very important to take time. Where do I want to go? What do I want to understand? And how am I going to do it? The how bit has got to be robust. It has got to be strong and rigorous. The next question I ask, does it help you to achieve your intended goal? I'm going to fix a blocked toilet drainage. Do I have the right tools in my box? Would I be able to achieve what I want to achieve? If not, go back again to the drawing board and think about it very carefully. Is there a clear justification of your chosen research approach? Why are you doing it? Because there is always another way of doing it. Now, I'm not expecting people here in the methodology section to have longer, a page, 2 pages, 3 pages. You can actually explain these things within a page. Very concise, more focused, straight to the point, and explaining things effectively. Are the data collection methods relevant? That's again my toolkit. You're going to fix something. Do you have the right tools? Key question, do you have the right tools? It's also important to acknowledge the limitations of your chosen research approach. Yes, I'll get the results. However, the sample that I used, it's a very small sample. Acknowledging the limitations of your approach is very important because you're showing that you recognize that as much as you're getting to your results, but you could have done it effectively. Okay. Yes, the findings are important, and the findings show or demonstrate what anything new that you're bringing in, which you highlighted as missing in the literature review. So it's very important to go through a thorough analysis of the data that you collected. Half the time, you look at what the authors are saying in their interpretations of the data that they collected. The interpretations are very limited and very shallow. They miss the golden nuggets. I'm bringing in a new term here. They miss the golden nuggets, things that you could actually shout from the rooftops to say this is new. The golden nuggets are missed because there wasn't a thorough analysis of that particular data that you collected. Relevant to the topic, and it's a topical issue which is being discussed within that particular journal that you're targeting. If it's JSBE, make sure that when you do your analysis, it is clear and it links to that debate which is ongoing within that journal. Okay. That links to the second point there. How did the authors interpret the information from their key informants? As I said, do not miss the golden nuggets. Go for those golden nuggets. That should tie everything, starting from your research problem, your aims of your research, and what the literature tells us or doesn't tell us. Okay. Has the literature been used without overwhelming your findings? In the findings, that's where you are using your voice to highlight what you found, what is new, what is interesting. Don't overshadow that by bringing in the literature back into the introduction and into the findings and overshadowing those golden nuggets. Use the literature, but use it sparingly. Don't overshadow what you're trying to bring to the world. Okay? Are you adding anything new to the existing theories? That's the key question. I'll come back to this later on. I think I'm almost there. So I'll come back when I talk about Howard talked about retiring old conceptual, old theories that have been existing, recycling. I think he avoided using the word recycling. I'll come back to it and I'll try to explain a little bit more about what I mean by what are you adding? Is the data that you're looking at bringing out those golden nuggets? Okay. So the discussion of findings, again, I'll just give an overview here. You are then demonstrating what you've told us in the literature review. Where does your study sit within this wider debate, this debate that's going on? Most importantly, what you are telling us, is it a departure from the norm? Those papers for us are interesting for JSBE. Is it a departure from the norm? Are you developing a new theoretical avenue? I like the last bit. Well, I like it because I've written it in my slides, but I like it because you are then championing, or you're actually carving out potentially new interesting avenue in terms of theoretical development. Again, I'll come back to this term of how you could develop a new theoretical avenue. What are the implications of what you're actually saying? Practical and theoretical implications. Those things, I don't know how many times I've written a paragraph back to the authors saying, well done, your discussions are good, but what you've just told us, what are the implications for that? What are the implications for micro-entrepreneurship? What are the implications for the study of informal entrepreneurship? That most of the time it's not strong, it's missing, or it has been brushed over. Okay, I'll move on to the next bit. I've put in red golden nuggets. I don't know whether golden nuggets are red. But what I mean there, in the conclusion, you are then highlighting all those key important points that were raised in the rest of the document. You are telling us why they're important. You are telling us why people should listen to them, why people should pay attention. For me, the golden nuggets throughout the paper should start from the introduction to say, this is what is currently missing. This is what I'm going to explain and show you how that's important to the debate on a particular topic. Okay? The rest is just the normal stuff that we do. But I've put it on these slides just to remind people, as much as it's the norm, you expect to see it. But people make things such as any recommendations, suggestions for the future. Those things you find they'll be missing. And yet you would think it's simple, but those things will be missing in the papers. Okay. Areas of interest for me and the journal. Remember, I said at the beginning, when you do your due diligence, look at the associate editors, look at the chief editors. What do they do research on? Look at the papers that have been published in that particular journal. What are the key debate topics that are currently trending within that particular journal? I think we've had in the past, last year and this year, we've had special issues that are focusing on female entrepreneurship. I think that it's a nice topic, an interesting topic, and it gives you the platform to come up with those new theoretical avenues, especially in the context of sub-Saharan Africa. There are things that happen within that context in female entrepreneurship that are not reported. Howard talked about using theories that are tired. In female entrepreneurship, I've seen several papers that refer to Brush et al. 2009. They proposed a model which explains female entrepreneurship, but it's not contextualized in the African context. It was developed in the Western context. Try to apply that in the African context, it doesn't work. Here is what you could do. That you could actually carve out a totally new area of research by developing contextualized theoretical framework that are applicable in the sub-Saharan context. If you think about it, you can also apply it in most of the Asian context as well. There is some similarities there. Unlike informal entrepreneurship, it has not been reported. Where it's reported, especially in the West, it is brushed under the carpet, but it's actually happening. It's an interesting form of entrepreneurship. And if you think about it, because of COVID-19 and all that stuff, most of the trading, say for example, I'm tired of wearing this t-shirt, or not because I'm tired, but maybe I want to go and buy a new one. I can actually sell it online. That's an example of informal entrepreneurship. If you can capture that in your research, it is actually an avenue for developing new theoretical frameworks that explain entrepreneurship in a different light. So informal entrepreneurship, it sits in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, the traditional process that we know of buying and selling or establishing a business. Micro-entrepreneurship, and I've gone down to say micro-business. So this is the business happening at a micro level, individual level. Interesting context in the African context, emerging economies, transitioning economies. It is happening, but it is not fully captured. And that's an opportunity to develop new theoretical frameworks. Immigrant entrepreneurship, transnational entrepreneurship. I know in the context of Canada, lots on immigrant entrepreneurship. That could actually be an interesting area of research going forward. Okay, I'll go to my last slide. What are the implications for this new direction? This is just to summarize everything. I did explain to you in terms of the sort of things you need to pay attention. I gave you a reference, which is Dean Shepard's paper, which you can reference. Now, all the other things that I said, trying to carve out a new area of research. What are the implications? It means you're bringing in fresh ideas. Old theoretical concepts, yes, we still need them. I'm not saying we don't need them. We still need those established theoretical concepts, but we need to make sure that we move to a level where we can either adjust them, modify them, or even better, develop new models that are more contextualized and relevant to the current environment that we're in, rather than keep on recycling existing theoretical concepts or theoretical models. That will help us to capture unique contexts. For example, you could look at trade during COVID-19. COVID-19 has brought in restrictions. In informal settlements, especially in Africa, there are restrictions, but people still trade, peer-to-peer trading. You can't capture that, but that's entrepreneurship. We are encouraging research that actually capture that level of entrepreneurship, that level of trading, which is peer-to-peer, rather than large established entrepreneurial firms. Small, effective interactions at a micro level. It's important that we think about new conceptual frameworks. One of the things, I've put it in red and in the middle of that slide, systematic literature reviews, very important. They actually highlight what is missing, and you can actually suggest direction for future research in entrepreneurship. And in all those topics that I talked about, I recently published something on female entrepreneurship. We also institutional voids for small to medium enterprises that are relevant to emerging economies. That's interesting. You look at a board of literature, summarize a large portfolio of different articles, identify those gaps, what is missing, and then suggest research to move that particular field forward. Either it's networking for small businesses or what we talked about, informal entrepreneurship. So they talk about formal and informal entrepreneurship. Formal is more well-known, but informal, which is prevalent. And as I say to you, I can see it growing because of COVID-19 restrictions, people selling things online.